I'd like to call the Transportation Committee meeting of April 12th to order. For our roll call, we have Alderwoman Rhonda Pendell-Charles and Alderman Rob Savage, myself. Everyone's present. At this time, I'll take an approval of our agenda.
So moved.
Madam Chair, I'd like to approve the agenda as amended to move ID 3723 to the top of the agenda and then move on to ID 5223. That's a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right. The agenda is approved with the amendments. Next up on our agenda, I would take a motion for the approval of minutes from March 8th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes approved. Moving right along on our agenda, our first item on the agenda is ID 3723, Transportation Board Update. Kurt Riegel. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Kurt Riegel, 307A Monterey Avenue and Chairman of the Transportation Board. Just a couple of things today. At the last meeting of the Transportation Board, we had a presentation by Brian O'Malley, who is the CEO of an organization called the Central Maryland Transportation Alliance. And it was a very nice presentation covering a range of topics. One that appeared to have their highest priority was an inequality in how voices are heard. City councils and government bodies and those which make decisions regarding funding frequently hear from people who are at the high end of the income spectrum, but very seldom on issues of transportation hear from people at the lower end of the income spectrum. And the purpose of his organization is to somehow bring that voice of those who need public transportation the most to venues like this one. And so I was very interested to hear that, and we will follow what they do. They're focused more in Baltimore than here, but I think we'll be paying more attention to Annapolis in the future. The second thing that I wanted to report is that House Bill 519, which really had its genesis here with you in the City Council, to allow bicycles on sidewalks, it resulted in a change in the city code and a big change in the county code, and a recommendation to the state government that the state law be reversed on that point. It passed unanimously in the House of Delegates, went to the Senate, and as so often happens in the Senate, it never got a hearing. It went into a committee which is so busy that it naturally prioritizes its work, and it deals with big dollar items that are very important. This was a $0 item, but it's very important to the health and safety of children. And so it was never considered. It died for lack of attention. And I don't know what we do about that. Next, Delegate Jones is going to reintroduce it next year, and we will try it. And Sarah Elfreth was of no help on this. She's not on the right committee. But we need a strategy that will somehow get this heard by the Senate next year so that it can be passed. It has no opposition. It just has a lack of attention. So that's that. And then finally, Alderwoman O'Neill and I attended a meeting last night in Parking District 5, also known as Ward 2, at which a number of points of view were expressed on possible changes in the configuration of that parking district. And my sense of that meeting, and by the way, this thing, according to the city code, if it results in a recommendation of any kind, it will come to the Transportation Board, and we will weigh in an unbiased way on whether it makes sense. But I just want to tell you that what we will look at is some sort of index of need. And the reason I mention that is that there are 2 wards in Annapolis that have severe parking needs. One is Ward 1. The other is Ward 6. The configuration of houses and parking in those wards tends often to require that people park on city streets if they're going to be anywhere close to their houses. That is not the case in West Annapolis. Virtually every house has a driveway and a garage, and the fundamental question is, why is there a parking district at all in West Annapolis? I was glad to see that in a preliminary plan, one of the streets presently designated as a residential parking district has no residents living on it. And it seems eminently sensible to remove that street from the parking district. But we need some index of need which is somehow objective and rises above the clamor of 1 or 2 individuals who may have a localized problem. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you very much. It was a very interesting meeting. Questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. We would have to, of course, pass this to Madam Chair, but I have 2 suggestions regarding your bike legislation next year. Number 1, that we as a council do a resolution, and number 2, as we did earlier this year regarding the tornado legislation, that we also testify before the Senate, especially, at least Madam Chair, if not the rest of us, as support. I think that would give it a little more oomph and attention. So that's something we can discuss, and Madam Chair can make that decision.
Thank you kindly for that suggestion. I think it's a good one, and we will follow it through with draft language for you to consider.
Thank you. Other questions? All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Next up on our agenda is ID 5223, Annapolis Premium Parking. Brendan Bodensteiner. Welcome. And Director Marcus Moore.
Sit with you. Brendan Bodensteiner, Premium Parking. Brendan Bodensteiner, Premium Parking.
Marcus Moore, Director of Transportation Parking, City of Annapolis.
Thank you. Welcome, both of you. I believe Brendan has a presentation with some bullet points that you'd like to share with us.
Absolutely. After reviewing last month's meeting and much of the feedback that we have received since operating, I thought I had some main bullet points to address everyone's concerns. We definitely have heard loud and clear regarding the day pass, resident day passes, temp passes that are currently being offered through a promo code program. And to bullet some of the reasons why that program exists as it is, we thought there were many benefits. We do know the major friction point right now is there is a learning curve as the way these are delivered are drastically different than they have been historically. Before, they would wait until they had a need for a day pass and they would request them right at that time, but had to pay for them at that time. What we have implemented is the ability to get a full allotment of day passes for the month or the year, and you don't get billed when you receive these passes. So you will have them available when your need arises, and you pay upon usage. The benefit of this is, in a license plate recognition operation, you were able to, without having to reach out to anybody, without having to rely on another system, you were able to get that license plate credentialed into the system independently at the time of arrival. And many of us do not know what our guest license plates are until they actually arrive. The benefit of the promo code also allows us to issue that full allowance all in a single request, eliminating that resident having to make up to 10 independent requests each month. We do understand that there has been some friction about the length of these promo codes. They were designed in a way to help us audit and control usage. However, we are actively looking at ways to shorten that and shift more of the management internally on our systems. So we have heard that, and we are prepared to help reduce that friction point. Currently, we have encouraged residents to request up to 3 months at a time, further diminishing the frequency at which they need to request these codes, which previously could have resulted in up to 30 requests, now eliminating that down to a single request. While the Hillman garage is under active construction, we have also implemented 10 6-hour passes to residents to help alleviate the need for dog walkers, visitors, somebody coming to drop something off, Nana coming over to help with the kids for a couple hours. So we have added those extra passes. Those will not likely still be offered upon the completion of the Hillman garage. We also know another common friction point is the inability to purchase multiple days all in a single transaction. The reason for this is to control usage. The promo code has to be used in 24-hour increments to check it off in the system as a use. If we allowed multiple days to be purchased in a single transaction, there's a risk that that would only be checked as a single usage, then offering that resident too many days per month as a guest pass. I also wanted to clarify a misconception. Some people believe that the on-street reservation, previously referred to as the contractor rate last month of $25 a day, is a way to upcharge for these same services. This is actually an entirely different product. This has been offered by the city long before premium parking took over. The intended use for these on-street reservations is to accommodate moving trucks, deliveries, contractors, transportation needs. These are not for visitors. So I did want to clarify that. And for those, another major friction point is those who are not quite tech savvy. And we do have people positioned locally and at a call center to provide assistance by phone to help these people get promo codes both used and their guests credentialed in our system. We've recognized there are many ways to improve this program. One of the biggest ones is coming up July 1st will be the first annual resident permit season that we will be there from the start of it. This past year, we came into the picture after the resident permit season had already started. With this new resident season, every single person who is applying for a new annual permit or an annual permit renewal, we will be giving them their full annual allotment of day pass or temp passes. They will not need to request them anymore. They will have their full balance that they're entitled to from July 1st to June 30th. This will come in the form of 13 codes. These codes will mostly be the same, with 4 to 5 digits at the end being randomized for the sake of control. But they will be very easy to manage, and within those codes, they will describe when they can be used. For example, a July code would start with JUL to help making them more manageable for that resident. To review what the residents are entitled to, the numbers were a little bit off last month's hearing. It is 10 24-hour passes per month, 25 24-hour passes per year. So again, they will get 12 codes assigned for each month, and they will get 1 code for the year. and they are not billed for any of these at the time of distribution. They are billed based on usage when those codes are redeemed. And that is a fee of $3.50 as it has always been. Getting into annual permit signups with the new season. We are going to post a web form, and we are going to allow people to start submitting their applications for new permits and permit renewals starting May 1st. These may not be processed immediately, but this will give people the opportunity to submit their information in advance, and this will allow us to start processing them sooner as well. This will also be in conjunction with the Noah Hillman Garage signups. So we are going to start accepting monthly subscription requests for the Noah Hillman Garage on May 1st. And we'll have a submission form for that as well. This will create a queue. We do not know exactly when these subscriptions will start, as there is still a floating date for when this garage is going to open. Right now, we are targeting somewhere on or before July 1st. Let's see. We also will be prioritizing anybody who was a previous Noah Hillman monthly parker that was relocated to Gotts or Park Place will be the first ones activated as monthly subscription holders when the garage does open. Visitor center engagement, we are currently working with the visitor center team, and we are going to schedule some public sessions for frequently asked questions and general feedback. These are going to be open to anybody who wants to attend. And once we confirm some times and dates, we will make those available to the public. They will likely have a virtual component as well for those that just want to listen in. Public outreach, we are working jointly with the Department of Transportation, with Marcus, with Department of Public Works, and with the city managers team. And we're going to set up several different venues throughout the downtown area to have similar FAQ feedback sessions. Some of the venues we have discussed is the top deck of the Noah Hillman Garage upon substantial completion. That way there's an opportunity for people to come tour the garage, see this new flagship asset that the city is providing their residents. And it will be an opportunity for us to host a session for the general public to start asking questions, not only about the garage itself, but about the resident permit program. And the last main point of feedback that I pulled from last month's session was the website. The city and Premium Parking and NSP Plus are all aware of what needs to be changed on this website. The city is undergoing preliminary research to start this overhaul project on the website. We do understand, we are going from a single operator to a 2 parking operator system, and the website just was not designed for that. There's some end user issues, trying to find, the right pages, the right information to navigate to. So this overhaul will simplify all of that as it comes to the resident permit program, as it comes to enforcement, appeals, and citation payments, and general parking information across the board for the Annapolis parking program.
All right, thank you. I know I have a couple of questions, and then I'll open up to my colleagues. Is there a timeline for that website's introduction, the new updates?
Yes, Madam Chair, as we mentioned at the last meeting that we had last month, a few city employees are working on that now. So there's a few parts that we want to get up before the Hillman Garage opens, but it'll be a work in progress. So work has started a few months ago, but the forward-facing pages that will clearly better identify SP and Premium will be a little bit easier to navigate through.
Thank you very much. And That's all my questions. Other questions?
Questions from me?
Well, I want to thank you for coming out to the meeting today. Did you happen to travel from out of town, or do you have an office locally?
We have an office just outside of the concession area.
Good. And can you confirm your position with Premium Parking?
Market president of the DMV area.
All right. So again, I appreciate you coming out. And I'm glad to hear some of the improvements that you've outlined. I'll fully admit I don't have a firm grasp on the issue because we don't have parking passes in my ward. Looking forward to hearing our colleagues who do have these issues and hearing also more from the public. But I do want to say that frankly, it really shouldn't have gotten to this point. The public is obviously, you could tell from, we usually don't have this many people at any of our committee meetings.
We don't have any.
Yeah, we usually don't have any. It shouldn't have gotten to this point. We are a capital of Maryland. I know we're a small city. We shouldn't be having to come in here and say this. The director shouldn't be saying this to, you should have stepped up from day one. But again, I'm glad you're here now. I was going to suggest, you mentioned you had some kind of public meetings you're going to be scheduling, outreach meetings.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain, you said it may possibly have a virtual component. Are they going to be primarily in person?
Our intention is to engage in person, but certainly we understand due to, just everybody's different life schedules that may not be an option for everybody. So we would, at all venues possible, like to offer a Zoom dial-in option.
Okay. And have you performed any other kind of outreach as far as written material, printed material to the residents who are impacted?
Early on, as we were starting last year, we had a 3-page summary of the changes to come, and we have provided the city for their own distribution some 1-page material that has gone out.
Okay. And had there been any kind of public meetings up to this point?
Yes, there have.
And how many have you held?
There have been 2 that we put together with the visitor center, and there have been several put together by both WARA and the Downtown Annapolis Partnership. I would say somewhere around half a dozen meetings where the public has been invited.
And one feedback I have, which is the only way I've been impacted in my ward anyway, is we do still occasionally get traffic tickets downtown. Now, I noticed, and I mentioned this to the director already, but the notice I get in the mail, it didn't say Annapolis anywhere. Nothing on the letter. It looked like a scam letter. I could not tell if it was legitimate or not. There's nothing that identifies you as part of the government structure as far as being the official body who sends out these notices. So something needs to be changed with that just to make it identifiable. I worked for government in both my jobs for the past 20 years, and if I can't identify it as a government document, I can't imagine what the general public may be confused by with that. We've also received complaints that even after mailing payments, people still get notices in the mail. Now, it sounds like, are you saying that will people be able to pay on this online portal that is being developed?
So those letters received by mail should have never been sent out. That was a result of a couple different errors programmatically. That vendor is actually not anything to do with Annapolis anymore at all. There will be no follow-up emails or mailings. As of yesterday, approximately 10 a.m., all records in their system have been deleted and removed. And we are no longer working in conjunction with that company as it relates to this on-street operation. and we are working with them right now. There is, this is private contact information, so there's some sensitivities that we are navigating, but we will be reaching out with a follow-up letter to everybody who received one of those letters within the next 2 weeks, hopefully within the next few days, with a letter explaining that, first, that letter can be disregarded. Second, that letter was a mistake in the first place, and every portion of it can be discarded. And third, that no action is required by the person who received that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That's all I have at the moment, Madam
you.
Chair.
I'd like to welcome Alderwoman Ellie Tierney. She walked in after we started. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I got delayed and I need a little caffeine. I'm going to make my comments based on the fact that we don't have a decision in this matter, that you are here as our parking vendor. And I'm going to speak very freely. My residents are at the point of just exhaustion. And we have to get this right before City Dock starts construction, because we're going to go through another cycle of inconveniences. But I'm going to ask a question. Did you know what you were getting into when you said yes to this project? I assume you were low bidder and you were given a scope of work, but did you know you were going to be in the heart of downtown with reservations for contractors, for events, with compressed area? It wasn't just giving tickets out. Did you know that? This learning curve has been unacceptable. It's been unacceptable. So,
Yes, we were aware. We were hired to handle things a certain way. We were a digital solutions provider, and as we got into this operation, the city recognized that Annapolis needed more than a digital solutions provider, and our scope of work has expanded, and our budget has been expanded in according to that scope increase. So we were going through a period of being what we were originally hired to do, to then growing into what the city needed us to do.
so you actually added, you charged more for learning about this additional scope, and that's the way I look at it. But, okay, so now you have the opportunity to start fresh, if you will. You're going to be renewing residential parking permits, okay? So this is the only opportunity we have, really, to get it right. And so how are you going to make it easier for the residents? Obviously, what's so ironic about this is we're in this technology age. This stuff should be easier. I think my residents understand that we are in an application society. And if they don't, that's unfortunate, because we are. And every major city has Park Mobile. Park Mobile is not going away. But somehow, with this coding, it just seems to be this compounded error. So you say yes, on a positive note, you have listened to the residents, and one good thing I hear is that you're going to be issuing these passes all at once, and they're going to be coded per month so that they know that it's for that specific month. The 3-page thing didn't work last time. Are you going to have an information session that they can go to? Can they go to something like this and you have a PowerPoint demonstration and say, this is how it's going to work? Does anyone have any questions?
That would be the purpose of our public outreach, absolutely. We want that to be an open dialogue. We want everybody to feel empowered to ask the questions that they have. We do feel like many residents do have many of the same questions, so that public setting will be an efficient use of everybody's time, where I can address a group of people's similar questions instead of people waiting either on a phone line or waiting for an email for individual responses.
Okay. Enforcement. The citations that are going to residents that apparently you didn't have the information that they had already had a residential parking permit, they've been cited twice in some situations. Will that be rectified? Is that rectified by now, or are you just waiting for the next reapplication?
That has been rectified. Part of that was just a translation of data from one database to the other, and some of the information was not complete. However, with with us handling the entire permit season, handling all renewals, that information will go directly into our system upon receipt, and we will have it. There will be no migrating information from one system to the next. There will be no relying on somebody else to run report A or report B and us to try to translate that. We will be handling everything from start to finish. We will be that full stack solution provider for the entire permit program, from all the way from the request to the delivery of services.
And that's the thing, I get that. I get that you were not given all of the information from the other vendor, but that is not the resident's problem. All of that stuff is not their problem. So all we can do at this point is give them the service that they deserve. And the other big issue is contact with you. I was told that you had an office, or you're going to have an office. When you say you have an office, they expect that, gee, if I can't get an answer on the phone or by email, can I stop into this office? I don't think that that's in the cards. I mean, what is the best way for them to get immediate response?
We do have a 410 phone number. That is a local number that does go directly to our local office here just outside the concession area. We have a team of, their title is dispatchers, and their role is to field phone calls, field email outreach, help process permit requests, and they help dispatch the team out in the field. So if we get a call for a blocked driveway, this dispatcher, this local dispatcher here in Annapolis is receiving that call. They will coordinate locally with our team, they will coordinate with APD, and they will handle that. So this dispatcher is a role between field PEO management and customer service. We do only have 2 dispatchers on at any given time, and sometimes we do have 6 to 8 callers all at once. Any calls we're not able to immediately answer locally will roll over to our call center. They have an SOP. They are equipped with information to handle the majority of requests. However, Annapolis is a very nuanced operation. There are, Annapolis is unlike any other city. We all know this. So they do their best to field those questions. If they are unable to answer it, they create a ticket that will then go back to my dispatchers and my local management staff to field the questions as soon as possible if our call center is unable to address those issues. So by phone, by email, we field all of our requests in the order that they are received.
That's why I'm sort of at this point, because I consider myself a responsive alderperson, but I'm at the point now where I'm just rubber stamping these complaints to the Director of Transportation. I'm just forwarding them, it's like, I don't know what to do anymore. So obviously that, I guess the residents are here to voice their concerns as well. I think I do want to say, just for people that are watching or whatever, District 1 and District 2 are the most difficult districts because we do issue more residential parking permits than there are spaces. That's typically done. Not everybody's parking at the same time. So it is like musical chairs. And I lived downtown. I lived at Ground Zero. And it is, I know quality of life, we always talk about this, means different things in different wards. But, when you just are getting home after a long day at work and you're like, damn, there's a car and, these cars don't belong here. Why are they here? And all that stuff, it just gets to you. You start yelling at your husband, I can't find a space. And so it's putting things in perspective. It is sort of a big deal. It may seem petty. They don't have driveways. So this is just sort of a day-to-day, and if it keeps, hitting like that, they're at this point where they all show up and they want answers. So if I stop talking, maybe they'll get more answers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sir, I'm going to go back to the original question from Alderwoman Tierney. Did you know what you were getting into when you came to Annapolis. And I'm going to follow up what you just said a moment ago. Annapolis is unlike any other city. So did you really know what you were getting into when you got to Annapolis?
Yes, I do. My family's been here for 10 years.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. And number two, are you willing to receive hands-on assistance from Alderwoman Tierney as well as our chair, Alderwoman O'Neill, when it comes to any kind of outreach that you're going to do with the community? Are they going to be able to give significant input? Because they're living with this on a daily basis. And so are you willing to do that, sir?
Absolutely, and I do believe that's how we've been proceeding.
But it sounds like there may be more that needs to be done. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just some follow-up questions. And you may have already said this, and I missed it. If so, please reiterate, just reviewing some of the concerns that we've received. As far as 2 hours free on guest parking, that was a desire from residents. How are you addressing that?
So that's not actually within our purview to decide. Annapolis was for a long time 2 hours free in Resident District 1 and 2. That was removed at the overwhelming request of the residents, at least as it was told to us. And this was part of a much larger policy to help make parking on the streets available for residents while the Hillman Garage was under construction, which was a loss of over 400 spaces. We knew parkers being displaced would try to, park on the streets, further exacerbating an existing issue of very limited parking for residents specifically.
Okay, I will yield to my colleague if she has more information on that. The other question I have would be enforcement. Can you explain how enforcement is currently done as far as checking cars?
Yes, so enforcement is through a license plate credentialing system. So our PEOs, they go from vehicle to vehicle, scanning license plates. Their device will tell them whether that vehicle is credentialed or not. If that vehicle is not credentialed, it gets time-stamped. We're going to come back and check within 15 minutes to see if that car has been entered into our system, whether it's through the Park mobile system, one of the pay kiosks, and if it is not, it is then cited. That is the general enforcement workflow, enforcing for payment. And then there are behavioral enforcements, parking on red lines, parking in a crosswalk, and that fee schedule is set in the municipal Annapolis code.
So is it a handheld device or is it on a vehicle that it scans?
So currently all our PEOs are on foot. They are doubling as ambassadors to answer questions and increase visibility. So all our PEOs are currently on foot using handheld devices. We are working with the city. There is a car queued for our usage, but there are some legal documents and contracts that must be executed before the transfer of that asset.
And do you have any data as far as how frequently they pass by a street? As far as how often they go down a particular street, is it? I'm guessing it varies depending on where it is downtown, but do they go every 2 hours on some of these busier streets, every 3 hours, twice a day?
It really varies from street to street. We take resident feedback, we take city feedback, we look at our violator rates in the different areas. I can definitely say in the PG corridor is one of our most targeted areas as it has one of the highest violator rates. So naturally, that's an area we're going to target, especially around early morning when people are coming into the city, and early afternoon into the evening when we know residents are returning looking for an open space to park at the end of a workday. Mm-hmm. So we target by time, we target by day of week, and we target by violation rates.
Okay, thank you. And my last comment, I guess, is more, I think, for my colleagues, but when you mentioned that there was increase to a change to your scope, that you would bid on. I'm kind of curious about that, considering my general observation would be that a parking contract, the scope of a parking contract should be equivalent to what we had before. Why would that not have been in the scope to begin with? Was it? I mean, it sounds like you're saying that it wasn't, it was different, which is, I'm just
Yeah.
kind of puzzled by. Why would we even move forward with a contract that's
I
different
don't
from what
know
we
the-
had?
May I? Alderman Tierney, I know that we were all involved in the AMRP, contract review, and we couldn't really get into any sub-tier level. So I don't have the answer to that. I don't know how, the contract was vetted. I wasn't informed. I don't know who involved could really relay the ins and outs of District 1 and 2, but, but I did want to address the Park Mobile implementation has been successful. And at the last, or 2 Ward 1 meetings ago, I did get from Premium sort of a heat map of their enforcement. And what that story told was they're enforcing violators. Even with Park Mobile, there are violators. So you could just think how worse it could be without Park Mobile as a deterrent. So Park Mobile has worked as a deterrent, and the objective was to keep parkers away from downtown. Now it's at a really funny point because I'm getting comments from my residents or from other people saying, I'm not coming downtown anymore. You know what I mean? It's sort of backfiring. But the good side of this is that we have learned we're implementing alternative needs, alternative methods to use other than taking, one person in one car driving downtown, with the shuttle and what have you. So, yeah.
I do have one last quick question in regards to something that Alderman Savage said. Right now, there's not a 2-hour free guest parking that was removed. Will that be brought back at the completion of the garage?
I think that'll be the decision of the council. That decision was made by the city staff and advising our partner in Premium of what it was. So that's something that'll be under discussion.
Thank you. At this time, I would invite Susan Margulies to the podium. She is representative of several residents in Ward 1 and has a statement to make. And Director Moore and Mr. Bodensteiner, if you'd like to stay in case we have the need for some answers to some of her questions. Susan.
Thank you very much to the Transportation Committee for allowing me these 6 minutes to speak. I will be brief, articulate, and courteous. We, the residents, have listened to you very courteously, and we heard your veiled insults that we are not tech savvy and that our problems are because of a learning curve. Well, let me introduce myself. I am a professor of mathematics at the Naval Academy with a specialization in cybersecurity. I have done 3 startup companies before translating to academia, and I'm just going to gently say that your website is very poorly designed. We know, we can see you are a nationwide company with a specialization that we greatly appreciate in managing visitor parking. We are grateful for the Park Mobile app. We're grateful for the signage. We are grateful for the enforcement. We recognize how you are helping the city of Annapolis. But we also can see quite clearly that what you have done to manage residential parking is slap a couple of stopgap measures on your visitor parking management system and say, voila, now it works for residents. And I am here today to represent 427 petition signers who have one simple thing to say. It is not even remotely close to being good enough. Now, let's start with these promo codes. So just a reminder to everyone, when we establish our residency, we submit a small mountain of paperwork to you. Our driver's licenses with our current address, the deeds to our properties, our rental leases, a cable bill with our current address, a water bill, an electric bill. We establish to you that we are residents. At that point, it is not our job to help you audit, to help you track, to copy and paste a promo code from one place to another to help you with this process. This is not our job. No promo codes. It is not an achievement to cut the amount from 25 15-digit promo codes per year to 13 smaller promo codes per year. I wish I could convey to you the picture of our refrigerators and bulletin boards festooned with promo codes that we are desperately trying to remember. We are busy people. We work long days. We have children. We have grandparents. We are managing childcare and elder care. We are driving our careers forward. We do not have the time to do your job for you. No promo codes. This is an internal data measure that you should keep hidden from us. We do our job. We give you the information that you need to establish our residency. We establish our privilege of having the 25 anytime passes, the 10 per month 24-hour passes, the 10 6-hour passes per month. We give you the paperwork to establish our right to those codes. And when we log on to our account, you should know that we have that right. Now, these multi-day passes that somehow you're not going to allow us to have access to. So this is something that we used to have under SP Plus, and it's something that we have with the $25 contractor rate when we're reserving a hard spot on the street. That is, of course, very different, as you said. Now, the way it works currently, just as an anecdote, a friend shows up at 9 p.m., you enter their driver's license in, you get a 24-hour pass. You can't update it until it expires. You can't get the next day pass until it expires. So the next day you have to do it at 9:05 p.m. And then maybe you're chatting and discussing with a friend. The day after that, maybe you slip. Suddenly it's 9:30 p.m. before you can renew your pass. Next thing you know, maybe it's 10 p.m. You start losing sleep to follow the law. We are allowed 10 passes per month. 10 24 passes per month. There is no reason why we shouldn't be able to apply for a multi-day pass. This issue of managing fraud is your concern. It is not our concern. Those promo codes should be hidden, and then there is no problem with fraud. The way your multi-day passes work is utterly unacceptable. It is not acceptable to have a user lose sleep to try to continually renew a multi-day pass. Lastly, and I know I'm very close to my 6 minutes. Lastly, this free 2-hour parking for guests that we lost, this was very sudden and very unexpected. I really don't know what residents you spoke to. I'm just going to gently turn. Could any petition signers raise their hand if they were consulted about losing 2-hour parking? Is there a resident here who was consulted about losing our 2-hour parking? So, for our guests. So, please speak truthfully when you're with residents. We don't know. We are District 1, we are District 2, and when a friend comes by to drop off a cup of soup, they shouldn't have to pay. When they've had a bad day and they just want to drop by for a hug, they shouldn't have to pay. Friendships should not be managed with money changing hands. Just really quickly, it's hard to live in the historic district. It's hard. It's hard to upkeep our homes. It's hard to manage the Historic Preservation Society. There's endless circling. We have to park far away from our homes at midnight, walk through irregularly cobbled streets to get to our houses. This is something that can make our lives easier. We shoulder lovingly the things that make it hard to live in the historic district. And we're here because we live in the historic district and we have no intention of leaving and we love it. But this is not something that we signed on to.
Thank you.
Please hear us. Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you. That's just me. Would you like a response?
Sure. First, I would like to say I do hear you loud and clear, and I appreciate your feedback. I did not mean any insult when I talked about tech savvy. We do frequently get concerns and feedback that in our digital approach to parking solutions, that there is an elderly portion of the population that do not have the tools, resources, or experience to successfully navigate this system. That is the only reason why I brought that up. My accusation was not to insult the intelligence or the ability of anyone. Regarding the promo codes, I absolutely hear you loud and clear, and I do understand that to be one of the highest friction points right now. I will work with my product development team to see some solutions. I will say promo codes are an industry standard. We did not invent them. And it is a tool to empower an individual to be able to credential a vehicle themselves without the need of making a phone call, getting on some sort of online web portal, and oftentimes entering a promo code is much faster and more convenient than trying to draft an email, reach somebody by phone, or interact with a system that they may or may not be familiar with. As far as multi-day passes, we do have a reservation function, which will allow you to make multiple 24-hour purchases. However, there is a limitation that each purchase must be made in 24-hour increments. So you are allowed to make a 3-day purchase by using a reservation to purchase today, tomorrow, and the next day. Again, I'm going to work with a way to improve this to ensure that nobody is able to overuse or abuse guest passes while making this as convenient as possible to the user. I have a couple ideas in mind, but I will be bringing this to my corporate team, and we will make this a priority. Everybody in my company, we are a national company, and I assure you everybody is very aware of Annapolis. This is one of our company's primary focuses right now. We are committed to the success of this operation. My vice president flies here frequently. The president of my company visits, and we have even brought in the owner of my company who has discussed with the city manager. Regarding the 2-hour passes, the removal of that as a policy predates premium parking coming into the mix, and it was explained to us that the purpose of it was to ensure that there are spaces open to residents. We were instructed that our agenda or priority number one was to make sure that there is always an open space for a resident, and everything came after that. If there were 2-hour free available to the public, every single person who comes to Annapolis would utilize that before weighing any other measure, displacing residents from their blocks or possibly from their district entirely. So again, that decision predates us, but was made with the residents in mind to serve their needs.
Thank you very much. Alderman Savage.
Just a quick thank you for the thoughtful response. Just to offer a suggestion, once you go back to your leadership team to get some different ideas, perhaps you could look to incorporate that in a public meeting. That might be a good opportunity to present some alternatives to the public and just to gauge what direction they may want to go. And in particular, relating to the promo code alternatives. Because it just, again, I think in our experience, communication is certainly really important to trying to avoid problems, but also establish clear standards and expectations on both sides. So perhaps if the chair would be amenable, it'd be good to establish some point to invite them back for a follow-up.
Definitely. we'll be in communication and we can see when we can get you back on our schedule, when it's convenient for you to have talked with your leadership as well. So, Alderman Tierney?
Just very quickly, what I'm struggling with is what is the best means to communicate, because I heard you say that you weren't advised of all of this, but I was, clearly at a Ward 1 Residents Association meeting, the implementation of Park Mobile and the 2-hour issue was addressed, and, people there sort of nodded their heads, but that's not to assume that everyone, it's a Ward 1 Residents Association, but that isn't everyone in Ward 1. So I'm not sure if that is the best conduit to get this info out, and because it didn't work completely. So this is a good turnout here, but we have to think about how we're going to roll this next step out so that everybody knows and hears what we're going to do. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll definitely do that. So we will be back in touch and have communication as far as the next meeting time and the next opportunity to hear if there's solutions or changes or updates. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Bodenstein.
Thank you.
Up next on our agenda is ID 3123 Transportation Department update. So if Director Moore would like to remain at his seat and give us that update.
Yeah, good afternoon, committee. Since our last meeting, proud to report the movement of our progress of our RFP for the micro transit. That was tabled last year when we were looking to do a pilot, which is similar to what Annapolis Go powered by VIA is. That RFP has been completed and it will hit the street as early as Friday, as late as Monday, and we're looking forward to doing it. And what differs from what we want to do versus what VIA is doing is they did a transportation as a solution, which was a turnkey. They had the vehicles.
Excuse me, Director. I was just asked if conversations please be taken outside the chambers.
Annapolis Go, powered by VIA, is a whole turnkey, which is the transportation as a solution. They have the drivers, they have the vehicles, they have the software, which made it very, very expensive. We're looking for software as a solution, which is another SaaS, a transit kind of term. We're looking for the Prosper to provide us with a solution to make these reservations not only for this microtransit, but also for our mobility or paratransit service. So once it hits the street, it'll be a couple weeks there, then we have our meetings and all, and make a decision on a vendor, which will probably happen the latter part of May. VIA right now is the 14-month stint that was going on since the garage, so that'll carry us until the middle of July. So we're not sure if we'll be completely ready to start up at that time, but we hope we can and will, so there's no gap with what they're performing. One of the big things of us doing it ourselves, we're using our drivers, our vehicles, and remember, we do go into the county. A lot of our transfer points are at the mall. And there was originally looking at a memo of understanding to work with the Anne Arundel County Department of Transportation. This will make it more seamless without having MOU with both counties to kind of bring these two communities together, which is called the City of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. So we're pretty confident of how this will work. And what you see here on Duke of Gloucester, the mornings, you see this big 30-foot bus full of people, and then maybe from the hours of 10 and 3, you might see 4 or 5 people on it. So we're really looking at this product to look at the off-peak and, that first mile, last mile, and how the feeder service to other. So the possibilities are endless of what we want to do with mobility and the changing times. So that's the exciting part of us, to turn the page of what we used to do as transportation and what we're going to do soon. So it's exciting to look at something new that we haven't done before, tried before, but we're excited to see this come to fruition. So this pilot has been funded for about 2 years, but hopefully the next, when that's over, we'll have monies to completely take it over. But when we look at our service right now, the strongest route is the one that comes down here, the strongest being ridership, the green route. The one that carries the fewest amount would be the orange route, which only operates Monday through Friday. So you'll probably heard our deputy director or acting director, Dr. Dua, talk last year, years before, about this pilot program replacing an orange. Right now, we have to have the public, forums and everything there to go along with it. But what we can do with the purple at night. So remember, the purple is the continuation of our rainbow routes that comes in at 7 to 10:45, Monday through Saturday, and all day Sunday. So we're really looking to see what we learn and how we can ramp this up to make it a better system. And it'll be able to feed into places where it does not make any sense to run a service every hour. Alderman Savage, when we look at, Ward 7, I'm pretty familiar with that area as you are. But going down Edgewood and Bimby Beach Road, if we extended the round, would it make sense to go down there every 45 minutes? But something like this with a reservation is what we're looking to do. The senior center that's there, that's on demand. The other side of Spa Road, there's places that we were not covering that we can now start to cover and bring them in because there's not a need that's shown to need to do this once an hour, every other hour. So the excitement is growing with what we will be able to do with the microtransit.
Great. Thank you so much. That's exciting. Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so can you, just to explain again, what type of vehicle are you looking to use for the on-demand during, well, for example, for the non-peak, but also for the, I don't know what you just called, but the kind of side route, the on-demand down Edgewood Road.
Well, our smaller buses that are cutaway, which are about 25 feet right now, but we want to procure something smaller. Annapolis Go right now is using the Toyota Sienna.
Yeah.
That was, was a 6 or 7 passenger vehicle. We have some thoughts on another, a little bit bigger than the Sienna, but smaller than our Ford E450. There's another size vehicle that's probably a 12-seater that is handicap accessible. So we want to always make sure that's taken into consideration. So that's something we would grow into, but we can use our existing vehicles right now, which will be the smaller ones.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, and just to plant this seed in your head, you may not be aware, but both Volkswagen has their VW van, which I'm guessing the mayor would probably love to have in the city, but also Tesla, I think, is working on a passenger vehicle that it's still undercovers, but expecting to release at some point in the future. So that would be interesting options, I think, as we move here, as far as having smaller people mover vehicles available. A lot of development in that area.
Most definitely, starting to look at getting out of the business of gas-powered, carbon, filtered diesel and all. I think the Toyota Sienna is coming out, or has come out with the hybrid. So, that would be a very good option, and is reasonably priced on a schedule that we could get for a very reasonable price to fit this application. And the 2 electric vehicles that we'll get in the next 18 months, those are a little bit smaller, but right now they're earmarked to probably go on the circulator, which we call the Magenta Shuttle, but moving it around to other areas so it's not just on that area, into the neighborhoods as well. But the MTA or MDOT contract where we use as leverage for other vehicles that we can get, there's a study out now for the electric vehicles that we'll have more information later this year, that they're now coming on board with what we need, because obviously we have to build our infrastructure.
Yeah.
So that, that's the biggest thing that we need to do, but appreciate any information you can share with us that'll help this cause.
Yeah, and you may have seen that I believe President Biden has increased the goal for electric vehicles by, I think, 2032. He wants, what it was, like 70% or something like that of all new vehicles to be electric. So I'm glad to hear, it sounds like you're going to get us ahead of the curve here, because I think the demand will be increasing quickly. But I'll also just say thank you so much for, I think, really hearing the council over as far as, I think you're really bringing us into the future, and I'm glad you're really thinking outside the box. So
Thank you for
very
that.
much.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a general statement publicly that I recognize the extension of the hand of friendship from Dr. Margulies to the gentleman from Premium Parking. So it's left, so I just want to mention that, and I can see a hopeful solution coming
Yes.
regarding that.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr.
We do
Moore.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Are there any other questions?
So I'm not the diplomatic one here. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, Director. We appreciate you coming and taking your time today.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is legislation 04922. And at this time, I would take a motion to delay any discussion or recommendation on this legislation.
I would move to postpone action until our next meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We're going to postpone action on 04922 until the May Transportation Committee meeting. The next item on our agenda is adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.